You know, you are incredibly stressed. Maybe you are facing this huge deadline or a personal crisis, and someone tells you to just, look on the bright side.
Yeah, the worst.
Right. So you try those generic happiness hacks, forcing this relentless positivity,
Mhm.
and it just completely falls flat. I mean, it might even make you feel worse.
It definitely makes you feel worse. And, well, forcing positivity fails because it completely ignores reality at the cellular level.
Which brings us to our mission for today. We are in the fourth deep dive of our series on Dr. Daniel Amen's book, You Happier,
Yeah.
and we are trying to figure out your specific neurological baseline so you can just, stop fighting your own biology.
Exactly. Because standard advice basically treats every brain exactly the same. It assumes we all just need to boost our mood to the absolute maximum. But being quote unquote too happy is actually a physiological problem.
Like, being too happy is a problem. I mean, that sounds completely counterintuitive.
It does, but excessive happiness actually lowers your healthy anxiety, and that can severely compromise your decision making. I mean, you need a baseline of worry to just function safely in the world.
Right. So if the goal isn't just like maximizing happiness at all costs, we have to look at the hardware driving these feelings.
Yeah, and the book outlines 5 primary brain types. You have balanced, spontaneous, persistent, sensitive, and cautious.
Okay, and how you actually experience the world depends heavily on the interplay of 7 key neurochemicals,
Yeah.
right? Like dopamine, the molecule of more, and cortisol, the molecule of danger.
Spot on. Those 2 chemicals alone create this massive push-pull dynamic in your nervous system. Dopamine drives motivation and reward seeking, while cortisol triggers the stress response.
It floods your body with energy to deal with threats.
Right. But the issue arises when people think the secret to a good life is eliminating cortisol completely and just flooding the system with dopamine.
Let me push back on that, though. If dopamine is just the accelerator, constantly demanding more, isn't chasing it like driving a car with a brick on the gas pedal but no steering wheel? Like, you're moving fast, but you're almost certainly going to crash.
Yeah, you have hit the core trap right there. I mean, the goal is equilibrium, not saturation. If you maximize the feel-good chemicals and eliminate the bad ones, you basically lose your internal brakes.
So cortisol is the brakes.
Biologically, yes. Cortisol narrows your focus and heightens your alertness so you don't drive into oncoming traffic or take reckless financial risks. It provides the necessary friction to dopamine's acceleration.
Okay, so if the goal is finding this equilibrium rather than just maxing them out, what does a biologically balanced brain actually look like?
Well, that brings us to the balanced brain type, which makes up about 30% of the population.
70%. Got it.
Yeah. People with this type have a naturally optimized interplay between dopamine and cortisol. Because their neurochemicals aren't spiking or crashing wildly, they possess this inner 5-second delay for impulse control.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that inner 5-second delay.
Right.
Because instead of the amygdala, the brain's threat center, just immediately hijacking their behavior, that balanced chemistry gives their prefrontal cortex time to step in.
Exactly. So before blurting out an inappropriate comment or jumping headfirst into a volatile situation, they automatically pause. They literally have the biological bandwidth to evaluate risk.
And that biological bandwidth allows them to thrive on clear rules, meaningful work, and financial security.
Yeah, they don't need extreme thrills to feel alive because their baseline is already stable and secure.
But if their superpower is impulse control and clear rules, I imagine throwing them into a chaotic environment with unpredictable people would just completely short-circuit that system.
Oh, absolutely. Without dependable structure, their cortisol levels would spike to manage the unpredictability. It throws them right out of that comfortable equilibrium.
It must drain them completely.
It really does. A lack of structure forces their brain to constantly recalculate risk, which turns their stabilizing anxiety into overwhelming stress.
So let's translate this into a tool for you, the listener, especially if you aren't naturally wired with that baseline equilibrium. Here's a realistic micro-habit.
I love this one.
Today, deliberately borrow that tool from the balanced brain. Enforce your own inner 5-second delay before reacting to a stressful text. Or, before agreeing to a project you don't actually have time for. Just pause and count to 5.
Yeah, just let your biology catch up to the moment. Give your prefrontal cortex a chance to override the immediate spike in neurochemicals. Because the reality is when your brain works right, you work right.
Happiness isn't an abstract concept. It's the downstream effect of your physical habits and responses. Genuine fulfillment comes from understanding and optimizing your unique biological hardware. rather than fighting it.
Right. You can't outthink a chemical imbalance with a motivational poster. The physical baseline really has to come first.
Think about this before you go. If your brain type fundamentally shapes what makes you happy, how much of your current frustration is just you trying to live someone else's neurological life? Like and subscribe to get notified about the next episode.